Not everyone who listens to your podcast is going to like your podcast. In fact, most people who listen won't like your podcast, at least not enough to ever download another episode. Now, here's how we can use that reality to our advantage. Hello and welcome to another podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. You are one of thousands of unique individuals who have downloaded an episode of Podcast Pontifications since I moved over to Captivate FM earlier in the year. No, this is not a commercial for Captivate. Yes, I am on their advisory board. And of course, there's a link if you want to check out Captivate.com here in the episode details. But I'm not bragging about that number. That's a very, very small number. But that's okay. My podcast, Podcast Pontification, is a weird podcast designed for a very small segment of the population, working podcasters like yourself. So I don't have any crazy, grandiose plans to get tens of thousands or millions of downloads. I'm happy that other people do. I work on some programs that do, and so that's wonderful. This is a different thing. I'm okay with that. Not bragging whatsoever. But I was looking at some Captivate numbers this morning. Actually, I've been looking at them for a while, and it hit me that I need to talk about this. In fact, I had an entirely different show all queued up to go for today, but the brain said no, we'd like you to cover this little special thing. And it's about the unique audience members that we have. Not their uniqueness, you understand, but thinking about measurement from a unique audience perspective. So the individual peoples, if you want to think about it that way, although it gets a little creepy really quickly, so try not to do that too much. But really trying to answer the question of how many people listen to this program. The title of this show is, something about how do you get the ones that got away. Because the reality is, as I said previously, a lot of people will listen once and never listen again. Better said, maybe a lot of people download and maybe never even listen to that. Now, not a lot of podcasters have visibility into that because, well, we don't have a lot of visibility. But a few months ago, I think it was, Captivate, again, my media hosting company that I'm using for Podcast Pontifications, created an audience overview, that they call it, in their analytics section. And one of the things they're looking at is unique listeners. So not unique downloads, right? Not talking about that necessarily, because we can track that on a daily and a monthly basis, but they're tracking unique listeners, and then they're giving it to you over time. So not per episode, but for your entire show. I know the vagaries of this get a little bit challenging, but sure, it's important if you're selling advertising to know how many unique downloads each of your episodes is going to get over 30 days, but that's not what we're talking about here. That's fine for an advertiser who wants to know what their reach is going to look like for an episode. This is for you as a podcaster, as the owner of the show, as the showrunner, as someone who works on the program to say, are we reaching people over time? And when Captivate launched this a few weeks ago, it was, well, for me, it was like, wow, that's some pretty compelling information that I think more people should know about. So what I want to do on the rest of the program today is walk you through my numbers. Walk you through the numbers, the real live, actual, pulled off exactly, not indexed, not rounded up to the nearest 50 billion. None of those tricks. Just going to walk you through these numbers, and we're just going to talk about unique listeners. And as it's defined here, a unique listener is, and I'm going to read from the screen, a unique listener is defined as a listener from the same IP address at the same device within the presented time frame. It's a way of estimating the number of people downloading your show based on IAB v2 guidelines. So, in effect, they've got several different time frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different time buckets, and they've taken a look and said, all right, let's look at the unique people who have downloaded this file. Now, it's called unique listeners in this section, and of course, they're not listeners. They're just downloaders. This is the unique audience, but whatever. It's up to them to make their names. It's not what they pay me for. They don't pay me at all as an advisor. So here's what we find out. So the numbers that make sense to me is I don't care how many unique listeners listened today. It's 7:09 a.m. I don't know when this was updated. Well, 11 minutes ago, according to the screen. So, 22 listens to 22 unique downloads today doesn't mean a lot to me. But that's the number. It's 22. I also don't really care that much about yesterday's numbers, which I assume is a rolling 24-hour window from when this was last updated. That shows 148 unique downloads. Again, I don't think that I care about that number too much. Maybe I do. That might give me a glimpse of my hardcore fans, maybe, but that's because I release a podcast 4 days a week. I'm assuming that unique listeners, if I was to look at it on a Sunday, when I haven't put out an episode for 2 days, it's probably a much lower number. So I'm not so sure of the value of showing the unique listeners for yesterday, but it's there, 148. The next one, and where things start to get interesting to me, is the number of downloads received, unique downloads, not the total number of downloads, the unique downloads over the last 7 days. So again, a rolling 7-day window backwards to now. And that shows 399. Interesting. And let me tell you why that is interesting. On average, my episodes are downloaded around 200 to 300 per episode over the course of 30 days, which is kind of what I've been using as my audience estimate. How many people are listening, Evo? After 30 days, I get 2 to 3. Let's say 250, 300, sometimes more, sometimes less. But now I've got this rolling 7-day number of 399, and let's call it 400 to round up. I know we hate the zeros. We think people are lying to us when we put zeros in, but so I give you the real number. So that's it, 399. In the last 28 days, 28 days is weird, but they do it because they can do weeks easier. I wish it was 30, but whatever. It shows 755. 755 in the last 28 days. In the last 90 days. 9 days. Now keep in mind, my show's been on break for 60 of those 90 days. This is only week 4 of me coming back from my season break. In the last 90 days, I've had 1,667 unique downloads. And all time, and for this main, it's all time from the beginning of the year when I first moved over to Captivate.fm, 3,134 unique downloads. Now, here's what this tells me. This tells me that I get a lot of people who download the episode and may not listen. A whole bunch of people download this show and may not listen, or if they do listen, they're probably only listening once, because there's probably a 10% chance, if you want to think about this just from the numbers I gave you, a 10% chance the people who download this show and might listen to this show, there's a 10% chance they're going to come back again. Is that troubling? I'm not sure if it's troubling. I think it just might be the reality of my particular show. Look, it comes out 4 times a week. There's just a lot of content that's in here. Maybe somebody shared it who thought it was interesting I was talking about social media, but it's all about podcasting. There are a variety of reasons why should change that. There's a variety of reasons why 90% of the people who have sampled an episode don't listen. Again, it also could be that it sucks. Tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit more about making sure that you're lining up with your audience, but I'm thinking about how do I go back and reach those people who have listened but stopped listening? I don't really have an answer. So it's kind of a rude thing for me to start this with the idea with the title of, how do podcasters recapture the ones that got away? Because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. How do I reach back out to people who downloaded an episode and haven't listened again? I don't know. See, sometimes I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers today. 2 things real quick, and I'll get out of here because we're at the 10-minute mark. buymeacoffee.com/Evo Terra. Got some special perks for membership, not just supporters, but membership. Think about that. And then please, maybe one way I can fix this is you tell other podcasters, hey, did you listen to Podcast Pontifications once? Check out some more episodes. That'd be awesome. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers.